Clickbait title, but I have indeed read a wide variety of psychology books. If you've never seen me before, this is my community live stream where I bring in Q&A questions from the community that I've built over the last few years. It tends to be shadow work questions, questions related to somatic therapy, Jungian psychology, and the various traumas and wounds and bruises that we have all been through and endured and survived. This will be an entertaining and quite wholesome stream. Again, if you're watching the live replay, you can check the timestamps down below. You will see the different questions. You are free to skip around. The first 3 or 4 minutes of every single live stream is a preamble and general welcoming for the community, but things will soon get underway. If you have a question for me and you're watching live, please do put the question in the chat and we will dive in more or less immediately. Hetty, good to see you here. First comment of the live today. Anya, good to see you here as well. Welcome, welcome. As the class is here, hi Jordan and everyone. Sapporo here as well. Hello Jordan, I'm happy to see you. I've been thinking of you and our community today a lot recently. Sapporo, one of my Shadowwork Library students. We've got about 130 members in my Shadowwork Library community. I've just finished a Shadowwork Library seminar for my EU group. We had a full seminar, nearly fully packed out at 30 people, and it was good. It was a good multifaceted conversation. Sapporo, my student, what are you thinking about in particular in relation to the community? I would love to share it with the wider community here over on YouTube if you are willing to articulate. I'm just going to bring up the stream on my offline, online live streaming phone. You get the idea. And we should have, there we go. I have myself right there. So I can monitor the chat. Sin chat from Nogueria, excuse me for not pronouncing that correctly. Feeling good is unnatural to me, so I struggle to start hobbies I love. I don't understand this. If that's a statement, then that's a statement. If it's a question, I suppose, how do you understand not starting hobbies that you love? It's a difficult one. There are many reasons why you might not potentially be able to commit to hobbies. Really, it's a question of self-worth. Really fundamentally, if feeling good is unnatural to you, whether you want to be bound to your unfortunate childhood circumstances or a difficult moment in your adult life, if the fundamental problem is I feel low self-worth and I feel like I don't deserve this thing or I feel like I'm not worth committing to, you know what the solution is. You need to do everything in your power to build that sense of healthy self-respect and self-compassion. That means clearing out the major traumatic baggage from the past, which is the mother attachment, the father attachment. It usually means clearing out some of the bodily disturbances if you have addictions to vices, certain substances, certain bad choices with food, lacking exercise, lacking vitality. Those things can all practically be stacked. And what I do advise you as the top suggestion is do it even when you don't feel like you're worth it. Still do the things, even if you don't feel like you're worth it. In the same way that if you had a 5-year-old boy or girl who is your son or daughter, you would look after them even if they've been naughty and not behaved. You would still give them love and attention and affection and make sure their needs are met, and you wouldn't take their hobbies away from them. Maybe temporarily you might punish them because that's a typical parenting tool, but you wouldn't ban them from enjoying their hobbies. You wouldn't prevent them from expanding and self-actualizing. Treat yourself very much in the same way and you'll find that things hopefully get a little bit better. Just a quick answer there, but I get what you're saying, and hopefully that helps. Seeing now in the chat, we have Hetty saying, I'm sad I missed tonight. Hetty, we will see you next time round in Shadowwork Library Seminar, I'm sure. Good to have you there. Lucy Adams saying, I adore you, with 5 exclamation marks. Lucy, that is a very high energy, enthusiastic way to kick off the live stream. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but otherwise, I appreciate you and your adoration. Anya says, how to express your authentic self when you feel repressed and like you're restricting yourself from the things you like without judging yourself. Okay, that's a great question. That's a big meaty question for today's video. Sapporo said quickly about the Shadowwork Library. Everyone listen to this. What's it like in my community? Sapporo, inside perspective, the secret perspective on the Shadowwork Library. It's not secret, it's public, but Sapporo sharing it now in real time. She says, I've been thinking about the books that are spoken of in the curriculum. I'm really digesting Romancing the Shadow and desiring to be more immersed in the community, maybe immersed in the community, but facing a lot of life issues. Taking what I've been learning from you and friends I've made in the community and applying it. Sapporo, what a beautiful, casual, organic approval of the self-integration school. I'm filming the self-integration school. That's funny. I go between states because I've been filming the self-integration school all week. I've just filmed the inner child module. I'm now like mixing together what is the shadow work library, what is the self-integration school. In one of the videos for the self-integration school, I even referred to it as a shadow work library, and I kept it in as a bit of an Easter egg because I'm not re-recording the last 20 minutes of this lesson on the shame concept, I think it was, just because I slipped up with my language. Very much an actionable lesson in not being perfectionistic about things as a teacher. But Sephora, I think you're in good company of more and more people in the shadow work library now forming deeper friendships, and I'm very proud and very happy to see this. I hear from multiple members every single week that calls were happening behind the scenes from people who never would have met if they didn't get involved in the shadow work library community. The books are one thing. The book that Sephora mentioned is this particular book called Romancing the Shadow. I've got a nice hardcover copy here. This is a collection of, not essays, that's Meeting the Shadow. This is two particular authors, Connie Zweig and Steve Wolf, talking about the archetypal nature of the shadow work concept. And basically it's more of a mythically inspired, more soulful version of the not so clinical shadow work, but something which has a lot more heart behind it. Very good book, Romancing the Shadow. And Sephora, I think you left something else in the chat. I'll read that before going to the other question. He said, taking what I've learning from you and friends I've made in the community and applying to my life, and it's really given me a broad insight. Beautiful. And Hetty says, another shadow work library student, it's so true, Jordan, I've met some incredible people too. Really good feeling as a facilitator and creator of a community. Then over the year that we've been running so far, you can still join if you're watching the live stream like, oh, I want to get involved in the shadow work library, that sounds like a place where I can make some friends. You can. The link is in the description. It is a 36-book curriculum that will take you realistically anywhere between 9 and 18 months to work through, depending on how quickly you can read. Some people go very slow, some people go very quick. I've had a handful of students that have read all the books so far, which is fantastic. But the real heart of the work is the community calls. We had one at 7 o'clock until 8:30 UK time earlier on, and we'll have the American call at midnight UK time, which is 7 o'clock New York time, in a couple hours from now. Those are usually always small group seminars of a dozen to 2 dozen people. You will enjoy it. Click the link in the description. If you've seen me talk about this for months on end, you're like, oh, I should really click that link in the description. Maybe now is the time where you do click the link in the description. Maybe you realize that for the price point of $950, $875 if you use the discount code 6booksfree, which is the equivalent to me giving you the first 6 books for free. You can get what feels like a master's seminar kind of vibe at a very affordable rate with a high quality 36-book hyper-structured 9-module curriculum that will take you realistically about a year to work through at your own pace, and you'll get lifetime access to that. The coaching is for the rest of the year until December 28th. It is not too late to join in. You can either click the link in the description or message me directly, and I'll be happy to start a conversation, which is really what I'm all about. I'm a one-to-one kind of guy. You've been watching these live streams and these videos for however many weeks or months. Talk to me. Make an actual relationship. I'm here for that. Right now I'm in live stream mode, but I can also be in like send you a voice note mode. Just message me. I'll let you know if the shadow work library would be a good fit for you based on your circumstances. And I'll be honest, if it's not a good fit, I'm not going to accept your money. I'll just say, go do something else, or you're not ready. I'm people away. I've turned away dozens of people over the last few years. Like, is the shadow work library good for me? And I ask how many books they've read, and they haven't read any books yet. I'm like, no, you won't. You're not ready for this. You don't like reading. Why would you join a community focused on academic study and like honest emotional introspection? I don't want people who wouldn't enjoy the experience to be inside of the community, because you won't enjoy it, and that doesn't feel ethically good for me. But if it sounds like you would, you know what to do. You know what to do. Midnight Rainbow says, thank you for your content and all the work you put in. Great. In which case we will go, you're welcome. We'll go back to the question from Anya just a moment ago. We're now well underway. First question here. How to express your authentic self when you feel repressed and like you're restricting yourself from the things you like without judging yourself. You're working with the inner critic here. So the inner critic is the distinct subpersonality. I have issue with the word authentic self because what you're talking about here, how to express your authentic self when you feel repressed and like you're restricting yourself from the things you like without judging yourself. Here you're creating quite common but still artificial duality between the authentic self and then the parts of you that are repressing the authentic self. There's something inside of you which is smothering the authenticity. If you already know that you're smothering and you're asking this question, why don't you just not? You're in control. I know this is the moment where I could speak at length on the ways to do this in particular, but if you have the awareness and the presence to know that some part of you is here and another part of you is here, and you're in the conflict of repressing where there's an inter-psychic battle within, you are the one who controls both armies. To use a bit of a warring metaphor, you can create internal diplomacy by being the one who is diplomatic. If you really do decide, I want to do something in particular, you have will and you have agency. You have power. This is more of a soulful aspect of you. If you're talking about your authentic self is connected to your spiritual self. Your spiritual self is something which does have agency beyond all the sub-personalities in your psyche. You may have trauma, you may have conditioning, these things might be true. In terms of you getting out of your own way, understand that you are both the one who is walking the path that you are walking on and the blockage on the journey itself. You are all these things at once. I don't necessarily want to go into a long, detailed answer for how to work through this, quite frankly, because I did spend the last 4 weeks talking about these issues non-stop in the self-integration school curriculum that I'm filming, going into great detail about the inner critic and the shame-based complexes and various wounds to the inner child. This can be a massive, massive topic, but it can also be quite simple. It can also be very simple, which is you are the one that's in control. Anya, good to see you still in the chat. You say, I feel like I don't have the strength to do it. I fear rejection, but I will try to work on it. Thank you. You're either going to live the rest of your life as a coward or you're going to solve the issue. And I say that with love and compassion. I'm speaking to the deepest, most powerful part of you. This cowardice isn't real. This repression isn't real. You have made choices. You've been conditioned. You've conditioned yourself. You do have the ability to just make that transition, make that shift. If there's something you need to do and you've already identified what the first immediate step is, just step forwards. Get off the live stream and go and do the thing. You say specifically how to express your authentic self when you feel repressed and like you're restricting yourself from the things you like without judging yourself. If you already know what you like and you know the next step is to do the thing, for example, you really like pottery, and you're like, oh, I'm repressing myself. It's been 2 months and I'm not doing the pottery. I bought the potter's wheel and I'm not doing it. And every time you walk past the potter's wheel, you're like, oh, I don't want to do it and I don't want to do it. Just fucking get out of your own way. Set a timer for 2 hours and do pottery no matter what. Force yourself to enjoy yourself, even if you don't feel like you're worth it. Do it even without the feeling, and eventually the feelings follow. This isn't a therapeutic advice. This is practical, no bullshit guidance of getting out of your own way. And to get out of your own way, you need momentum forwards. Don't let the freeze and the paralysis shut you down, especially if it's for a hobby or something that you already have identified that you enjoy. If you know that you need to make a certain creative move in terms of some kind of business expansion or expressing yourself online, sharing your art, and you feel like you're repressing yourself, remove feelings from the equation. Logically speaking, as if I were a robot, what would be the next step forwards to move this thing? I need to post. I need to make a pot. It's almost caveman-esque, isn't it interesting? The robot goes into the caveman. It's easy. It's extremely difficult, but it is easy. You know, everyone who's watching this live stream knows the thing that they're resisting, the thing that they're procrastinating, the thing that they're repressing. There is a literal first step forwards that you can also identify. You can also, in this moment, then imagine what the second step might be. You can probably imagine what it might be about 10 steps forwards if you keep going down this path for several years. There's no need to get caught in the psychodrama of fighting against yourself. You can just decide to hold up the white flag, call a peace treaty, and then just start rebuilding. Or moving forwards. Mixed metaphors. You get the idea. Good question though. Hopefully that helps. And good luck. Kira is here. Kira says, how long ago did I begin my journey on psychology or spirituality? I began consciously I started meditating about 12 years ago. So I got into meditation 12 years ago. I got into the books, psychology and philosophy books, again, about 12 years ago. I got really into the psychology books about 6 years ago when I started this inner work library project, and I read meticulously for about 4 to 6 hours per day, every single day for the last 5 years until 5.5 years, almost 6 years, until April when I banned myself from new books, and then I started the rigorous process of teaching my students in the Shadow Work Library and re-assimilating the information. This is one of those moments where people who haven't seen me, I'm going to say the thing. So this is the thing. This is the thing that is the clickbait on the YouTube, and haven't I read all these books and why this is an authority anchor and blah, 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 blah. Read 4 to 6 hours per day. I read 730 psychology books. I reread the top 200 of them during my rereading process. I sit down on my laptop and I manually type out the highlights from any particular book. What do I mean by the highlights from any particular book? I mean that when I'm going through a book, I get a highlighter and I highlight the book. I then manually go through and type all these highlights, which takes about 2 to 3 times the amount of time that it took to read the book. I have 200 of those books stored on my laptop. That's a document of nearly 1 million words manually typed across, what, I don't know, I think it's 5 different Google documents because you hit the page limit at 500 pages, so 2,500 pages plus ish of manually typed document. I just got completely immersed in this, and also while making the YouTube videos and helping my active coaching clients, and now having the Shadow Work Library and building the Self-Integration School. The Self-Integration School, you can also see the link down below, and that is my attempt at something like a Challenger University atmosphere where I'm creating an integrated, holistic, full spectrum, full depth, full height curriculum that is truly the thing that I wished I had access to. I'm in the process of filming right now. By the end of this being filmed, I will have 30 modules representing 104 core curriculum books, which are the backbone of this entire library project. Again, I read 200 twice. I then chose half of those to be the backbone, to really make sure that I can make the good choices, to really make sure that I'm saving you time. And that's what I'm doing in Self-Integration School. It is going to be comprehensive and meticulous. I'm about a tenth of the way through filming it, 3 modules deep. By the end of filming this and the public launch in April, we will have something like 430, 440 videos in my course and curriculum, which is nuts. Just think of what I said. 400, over 400 lessons and exercises. It is my life's work. So I technically got into this, I suppose, 12 years ago with meditation, and then spirituality and philosophy. But when I got into it, I did not just not get out of it. I really, really went into it, and I'm still very deep into it, to such a point that it's become my profession. And I very much love what I do, and I'm very, very much looking forward to sharing with you the next year of Self-Integration School. It's already coming together. Very exciting. Thank you for asking. I believe, Kira, you also asked me a few other questions. He said, wild, very beautiful. He said, lol, sorry, only read Ask Me Anything. And then, what is my go-to quote that I remind myself of daily? Ooh, that's a good question. What are the quotes that I remind myself of daily? You're going to die. That's a nice one. I've been viscerally death aware since about the age of 10. And You're Going to Die has a wide variety of charges. It's mostly positive and uplifting these days. Like, oh, I'm going to die, I better make the most of today. It's not deathly and crushing, it's just a stoic awareness. Other quotes that I remind myself of. I don't have key quotes that some people do this. This may be a bit of my personal psychology. I imagine some people have key quotes that they live by and they kind of go through mantras of quotes. I don't think I do that. I think what I have is I have a very refined internal voice, which is self-hypnotizing and success building and well-being encouraging, which then creates different sentences depending on the context. So rather than quotes that I live by, I have something of very, very positive internal parental figure that is guiding me forwards towards more success, more productivity, more rest and recovery if I need rest and recovery. Very easygoing in terms of, oh, I didn't do it today, but I'll do it tomorrow. Just that particular figure inside of me, or the way that I relate to myself, will then make different quotes or different ways of relating to situations and summon up different information depending on the context. But I don't think I live by any particular quotes. There might be some things that I say every now and again, but honestly, no. Apart from I'm going to die. So I guess it's just I'm going to die. That's it. I'm going to die mixed with very positive self-affirmation on a more or less consistent high self-esteem reinforcing basis. And that is the benefit. Get this. That's a benefit of doing focused inner critic work. If you can negate your self-hating language. I had self-hating language for well over a decade. I had all of the not wanting to be here kind of thoughts. You can get behind that and realize those critical thoughts whenever your thoughts to begin with. Usually the inner critic is a direct reflection of the critical voices, the critical voices that you heard growing up. And very, very rarely will the strength of your self-hating language not be reflected to certain things that you heard from family figures or friends or school teachers? So you can get behind it, get towards what some would say is the authentic self, and then get a very high self-esteem, self-motivating, just really loving relationship to yourself. And then that naturally manifests as very good life choices, being sober, making consistently positive choices. So that's what I live by. I live by that kind of philosophy of life, rather than quotes in particular. Hopefully that answers your question, Kira. Great question. Nice, fun, casual one. Welcome to everyone watching live. You can see we have almost 50 people watching live. If you are here live, get yourself away from lurking psychology and put yourself into participant psychology. I know you're on YouTube, I know you've had your whole day, all kinds of things have been happening, but just say hi in the chat, say hi, say where you're watching from, and maybe a psychology book that you're reading right now. If you're a long-term OG viewer of the channel and you've got a few psychology books, I would love to see what the community is reading, so please do. Let's see a good stack of the kind of books that people are reading before going into another question. Absolutely love to see that. I'll take a sip of my matcha. Any top psychology books that people are reading? Let's see them in the chat. Let's go. Come on. Sten's reading Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. I have that one. It's all the way up there, so I'm not going to read it. It's C.S. Lewis's Christianity book. It's quite nice. It's quite nice. Good suggestion. It's a good mix of like a nice psychological, theological take on why Christianity is indeed a lot more than we've been led to believe. Quite a soulful take on the book. We've got Untethered Soul by Mark Horn. Many good things to be said about that book. It's a nice, accessible introduction to a lot of the spiritual psychology. We then have Rag, who said, I read 4 of the 6. Nice. 4 of the 6 books that you can get for free. Recommended study guide, link in description, Self-Integration School. I'll give you a 6-book study guide, and Rag has read 4 of those 6 of the books I recommended in my starting letter, and just want to thank you. Currently reading Meeting the Shadow, very good to see. Anya has read The Invisible Partners and loved it. Athena says I've got a cozy setup. Thank you. I do have a cozy setup. I appreciate it. Midnight Rainbow is reading Jung's Map of the Soul. Come on, let's go. Come on, community members. We've got almost 50 people live. I know we've got readers amongst us. What books are we reading? Put them in the chat. Do not be shy. We've got David Hawkins' Power versus Force. We have New Age Religion and Western Culture from Ying Lan. That is a top book. New Age Religion and Western Culture is one of those books that will help you understand the exact nature of what New Age is and what it could have been. It's a history of New Age philosophy and New Age spirituality by Wouter Hannay. Fun fact, if you type in New Age Religion and Western Culture and go to Amazon, you will see a review from me. That is the only book that I've ever reviewed on Amazon, because at the time that I bought that book, it didn't have a single review on Amazon. I was like, this book needs to have at least 1 review. And then if you go and click on New Age Religion and Western Culture, you will also then see other books across the channel that I've recommended. If you didn't know this sounds incredibly arrogant and like egotistical to then say, if you don't believe me on this, my channel has directly influenced the Amazon algorithm of certain niche books then being paired together, and I know this because if you go to books that have really done well, for example the big videos have got hundreds of thousands of views, any one book in that video will then be linked to customers also bought the other books from that video, because someone's watched the video and gone to Amazon for a really niche book that has low sales like over the last few years to then create this web and network. It's so interesting to see. I remember when I first noticed this about 2 years ago. It's really nice to know that I'm not even required, like some training of the algorithm via me spreading the message and then people being interested in the books, and then that changes the Amazon algorithm. If anything, you're the one that changed the algorithm by following through. So really, really cool to see. A few more of the books that we've got in the chat. We've got another... We have got Owning the Shadow. We've got Jung's Collected Works, Volume 8. Very good. I don't know which one that is off the top of my mind. I've got some of the collected works over here. You can see those brown books on top right. That's all Jungian psychology. Some of his old school books. I mean, they're all old school. It's not like he's writing in 2025. He's a bit too old for that, some might say. We've got Reflection on the Course of Miracles by Kira, From Intellect to Intuition by Alice Bailey. These are the Alice Bailey books in the Bailey Shelf on Theosophy. Great choice from Intellect to Intuition. We've got Hello from Idaho, USA, reading Sage Huntress Lover Queen by Mara Branscombe. Great book. I am connected with Mara over on Instagram. She follows me, and I think we had a chat once or twice. Mara, if you're here, really like your book. It's a cool book. Silas is from York, reading The Art of War, which helps to be more steady in behaving. We've got Zinc Oxide, who's the author for Owning the Shadow, and that's Robert Johnson. Denise is reading Yogananda, The Second Coming of Christ. CC, James Hollis, A Life of Meaning. James Hollis is fantastic. Many accessible and Jungian style books. Just put that back on over here. We have Elizabeth reading Care of the Soul by Thomas More. That book is somewhere nearby. I've got Dark Nights of the Soul. Maybe not Care of the Soul. Silly me. Dark Night of the Soul by Thomas More. Classic book. I know it's reversed on your screen, but I just said it out loud. Dark Night of the Soul by Thomas More. Also wrote Care of the Soul, a good follow-on that Elizabeth is reading right now. Sapora, one of my Shadow Work Library students, is reading Codependence by Pia Melody and also Facing Love Addiction by Pia Melody. Both great books. And she recently picked up Invisible Partners. We then have a few more books, just a final few book recommendations, and then we'll take a question. We've got Vivo saying thank you for the book recommendations. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And Anya says, I'm currently pursuing my undergraduate in psychology, so I read a lot of technical stuff as well. I hope it's going well for you. Finally, Pratik is reading Psycho-Cybernetics from Maxwell Maltz. Let's go into a question, shall we? This is a livestream Q&A, so let's choose a good one that we can chew into. Mr. Dan asked a question. Carl Jung said we never truly heal 100%, but we do integrate our wounds. Yet the body in a natural environment with good food, rest and movement often heals fully. Why isn't that the case with trauma? It depends on what we mean by fully. A biological cell going through a state of renewal. For example, in a fasted state, if you go beyond the 30 hours fasted, you'll enter into a process called autophagy. And autophagy is the cell renewal process where the junk inside of the cell then gets recycled and reintegrated and renewed and refreshed. Some would say just like new. It becomes better than it was before. That's happening at a cellular level. That does happen within nature. The reason that trauma itself isn't fully healed is that you're not just working at the biological level. The psychological and even the mental plane itself is a much more complex entity. It's a series of associations, it's a series of feelings and projections and assumptions and memories and sensations and bodily affect all woven together into what Carl Jung would call a complex. It's a complex of associations. To fully heal a complex is impossible, because it is a fundamental conditioning that happens and is exerted upon the individual. For example, I will never be able to heal the conditioning of being a white man born in England. No matter what perspectives I might have, and this isn't getting like super political about things, I'm just being literal about like my biological reality. I'm a white man. That is my skin colour, that is my gender. I'm born in England, which is a certain geographical location. No matter what the benefits and drawbacks of that might be in a global perspective, or whatever mental ideas I might have, I'm never going to heal, which is the substitute word for fix or change or improve, my condition of being a white man in England. I don't need to heal or fix or improve my condition of being a white man in England, but that's the point. The point is that there are certain things about my identity and my being which are fixed. And certain things are not to be changed. Fixed qualities cannot be changed. And the issue with trauma, especially deep psychological trauma, is that it is very malleable, but it's something like you can prune the tree, but the trunk will still remain. You get what I'm saying there? You can prune the symptoms of vice or addiction or avoidance in relationships or an excessive compulsion one way or another. These are all the toxic branches coming from the tree, but the tree for some reason is fixed into the ground. Practically speaking, most people who have deep developmental trauma, although they can get 95% of the way through, their wound will never fully be healed. There'll always be at least some of the trunk and some of the roots of what happened to them early on, because those early years really do condition you into a person that you are. And this means it is more or less an equivalent to me having a certain gender, skin color, and being born in a certain part of the world. You can do things like changing your accent, or I could get a tan, or maybe I could go through a radical transformation to then pretend that I'm a woman, but it wouldn't be true. It would not be true. I'm still what I am. And because I am what I am, at a psychological level and a literal level, I can't make a 100% shift. Carl Jung's accurate in the sense that you never fully heal certain wounds because you are born in relationship to an environment, and that means both the literal environment, but the physiological environment and the relational environment of different parents and different family figures who are all coming together to say, like, you are this way. And you can get 95% out of it, but you'll never get fully out of it. The task of lifelong healing, if you had particularly difficult developmental trauma, is basically having an adaptive rather than maladaptive coping mechanism. A maladaptive coping mechanism for a deeply abusive father figure is something like an alcohol addiction or a sex addiction, or going into a really dangerous profession to try and get a thrill or something like this. An adaptive coping mechanism is recognizing that I am a certain way, I've been wounded a certain way, and given all the cards that I've been dealt, this is the best hand that I can play. And that in itself is the best that most people can hope for. I think it's idealistic and naive to expect that you will be 100% healed. I think the expectation of being 100% healed in itself creates a paralysis in many people. This is something you may have noticed in yourself. The idea of like, I need to fully heal from something in itself prevents you from healing the thing. Quite literally, the wound takes time to scab over and scar. I've got a nice scab right there. You can see a few. These are from my calisthenics training. This right here, I got one on either arm because I was using the gymnastic strings like this. I was doing dips. I decided to do 300 dips in a workout. Did 300 dips in about an hour, and the ropes eventually burn you when you're doing that many dips on the rings because the straps are coming in like this. So I kept going, was enjoying the workout, and this was about a week and a half ago, and I'm now at the stage of scabbing over. It might leave a wound, it might leave a scar, I don't know. Probably not, because it's just a little surface abrasion, but if the wound were deep enough, that scar would be permanent. Thankfully, it's a good scar to have from doing your calisthenics on the rings, but I've had to nonetheless take a break from the rings. I haven't been able to go on the rings and do intensive dips in like a week. I've had to do other exercises. Just being mindful of things. Hopefully that analogy and metaphor helped a bit. Sala asks, have I read any of the Gabor Mate books? If so, how do I regard his work? I have. I've got a few Gabor Mate books up here. I think Gabor is an excellent teacher at getting people into the world of trauma healing, and I'm personally more interested in what comes after the stage of getting into the first room. Gabor has done very well in terms of the way he presents things, the way he uses his language, the way he's been marketed, and the way he presents himself, of making a lot of these ideas accessible. I haven't personally gained much from him in terms of the way that he teaches, because quite frankly, I read his books several years after having read more of the classical developmental psychology books, so I could see it as being like a public-facing version of the more like dense, like high-value literature. Doesn't mean that he's a bad teacher, doesn't mean I have a word to say negative about the guy. I appreciate a lot of the more popular teachers. For example, we have Bessel van der Kolk with The Body Keeps the Score. He wrote that book in a niche way many decades ago. Now it's got a popularity around it, arguably because it's got a nice clickbait title, The Body Keeps the Score. It's got a nice ring to it. It's fine. They're fine books. They're fine books. Zinc Oxide said, 300 dips, how are my shoulders feeling after that? I have zero shoulder issues at all with doing dips, because I dip with my chest and my triceps. I love doing calisthenics. And actually right there, see right there, see that box? See over there? That is my gift to myself, which I get to unbox tomorrow when I've got my time on my offline day. I bought a new statics bar for calisthenics so I can actually start making more progress on my back levers and front levers again. I've got my new home gym, but the issue with home gym, if you haven't seen my home gym, I mean, this is a topic in itself. Can I show you? Or do you just have to believe me? I think you just have to believe me because it's on this app. It's the end of August right now, and I've trained twice per day, every single day in August. I've done 60 workouts this month. I've not taken a single rest day since June. In July, I worked out every single day. In August, I've worked out twice per day in my home gym. A workout for me is at least 22 minutes. It's normally at least 30, 35 minutes on average. I've worked out in the gym, lifting twice per day, every day for the entirety of this month, as well as a 20 kg weighted walk for at least 15 minutes, usually about half an hour, and I feel fantastic. This is anecdotal, this is personal. Me having the home gym has made me realize that the reason for all these years I wasn't training every day was simply because I had to commute to a gym. And I didn't find it inspiring enough to just do home workout with my body weight because I wanted more specialist equipment. I like doing things like Viking press. I like doing heavy lifting exercises, heavy farmer walks. I enjoy having the rings, which I can have pretty much anywhere else, but there's certain specialist equipment that I really wanted to have access to. And now that I've bought myself something like a statics bar, because my rack outside is too high and too unstable, I'll be able to do things. I haven't been able to do muscle ups on this. It's tragic. It's tragic. I've got a nice new rack. This is like real fitness nerd talk, but I haven't done a single muscle up on this rack because of the way that it's weighted. If I were to go round, and I weigh 90 kilograms, which is about 200 pounds, if I were to go round the back of the rack, imagine this like this. It's like a rack. It's got long feet here, and then it's got a short base here. If I were to go round like this, the rack tilts, and I don't want to risk the rack falling over with my momentum, and then I crash backwards, and then, suddenly I've decapitated myself with the rack. So I haven't tried it. I've been stuck on muscle ups on the rings, which I do enjoy, but I had to get myself a nice statics bar, which is the equivalent to getting like a pull-up bar that's low to the ground, kind of about waist level, so you can still do muscle ups from LSAT. You can do back lever training, front lever training, a variety of planche training, all of the more kind of advanced calisthenics moves. And now I bought myself the gift for that for the new week. But let me tell you, twice per day in August has been amazing. I've been sharing it every single day over on Instagram. In fact, we are on day 46. It's reversed on your screen, but we're on day 46 of the Immersion Challenge, which means posting every single day on social media rather than having offline times, and just training. Zinc Oxide says, how on earth have I stayed injury-free? Great question. I do not train in silly ways. I don't push to failure. This morning, which is my yesterday, I trained to failure on weighted shrugs with the hex bar. And that is something that I do maybe 2 or 3 times per month. I very, very rarely go to failure. This morning I loaded up the bar. I'm not, just the numbers I literally did. I did 145 kg on the hex bar, which is like the trap bar like this. I was doing the shrugs. Previous best was 10 reps. I decided to just blast it out this morning. I got 22 reps in a complete failure set. Everything was seizing up and it felt good. I do that exceptionally rarely. The majority of my training isn't at 100%. It's around 80%, which means I know based on 13 years of lifting, if I've got 1 or 2 reps left in reserve and I don't push myself beyond that point. Practically, this means that I don't risk injury on a step-by-step basis. I'm also very, very low ego of stopping an exercise as soon as it gets uncomfortable. For example, I did those shrugs. I then wanted to follow up with some deadlifts this morning, and I put on the tracker. This literally happened. This is an example I can give you. I put on the tracker after the massive sets of shrugs. I wanted to just do a few sets of like triples with the same weight, so just 145 kg hex bar deadlifts. I got 2 sets in. I'd written 4 sets. At the end of the second set, I felt a small tinge along the right side of my lower back, and I stopped. I don't care what the workout said. I then went and did some shoulder mobility with the mace, because I know that it's not worth me getting those 2 extra sets, 6 extra reps, and potentially causing a bit of injury, whereas just stopping. I make those decisions consistently on a day-by-day basis. I also sleep for 9 hours a day. I also eat organic, very high-quality food. Supplement-wise, I probably take close to 20 supplements, to be honest. I have a supplement cabinet with about 20 supplements in there. I'm very into like general nutritional benefit. You don't need to take 20 supplements. I have a bit of extra money that I like to invest in my health and well-being. I see no reason why not to get a few extra goodies inside of my body. But I eat very well, I sleep very well, I don't train to failure, I'm very sensible in my training, I'm 13 years deep on lifting, I know how to self-program, I know how to listen to my body and have muscle, memory, mind connection, and these kinds of things have made it so incredibly rewarding to just go daily with fitness. It's really cool to like celebrate that after 13 years of lifting, I thought I needed rest days. Like I bought the lie. I bought the lie that I could only really train maximum like 5 days per week, and I need to have 2 rest days per week. But really, it was just because I was commuting to the gym. I had to at the very least walk 15 minutes to my local gym, and then I train in a certain way with a certain mindset. But having the home gym and training throughout the day, morning and night, it has just been amazing. I've gained size, I've shredded down a bit on my stomach, I've gotten more competent in my skills and my strength. I really do recommend the experiment to those who are willing to try something new in September. If you do want to join me, You can go follow me over on Instagram. I'm going to be posting myself lifting and training and doing a variety of holistic things every single day. Maybe you join me in September. Maybe this is a thing we make in real time. Everyone watching the live stream, about 50 people watching the live stream. You're interested in psychology books? Here I am, giving you the backdoor hint into lifting and training, because we are philosopher kings and queens who lift and train, and we have healthy bodies. You don't have to lift every day. Daily yoga and daily stretching, going for a jog, going for a bike ride. I recommend these things. It has tremendously supported my productivity. You know what? I'm going to do some flexing. In the last 46 days, I've filmed over 70 videos while maintaining a client load, while having 130 students in my shadow work library, while likewise attending to my personal relationships. How am I doing all these productive things? Well, apparently, like, oh, I should be burnt out, I should be fatigued, I shouldn't be training. It's because the way that I'm training is at around the 80% mark. I know how to listen to my body, and the workouts fuel me. It's not exertion to do a workout, it's plugging yourself in for a recharge. And my productivity is just really quite cool right now, and I feel good mentally, I feel strong physically. I recommend it. Anyone like to join me for a September challenge? Now, many questions are coming in, but anyone feel inspired potentially? 30 days. 30 days of September. Why not go daily? I didn't for like 13 years. So I had to take rest days. Turns out that I can train every day if I do it in sensible programming. You probably do need to be more of an intermediate lifter, or intermediate yogi, or intermediate runner, depending on your sport of choice. But if you are considering, like, how do I step it up a level, maybe the mental health benefits, the identity benefits of being the kind of person who does something every day, these are really cool psychological benefits, not just the literal benefits, but I am this kind of person. I'm the kind of man who trains every day. I'm now apparently the kind of man that trains twice per day, every single day. I don't know if it will continue. Life may change. But for now, I'm enjoying it. September, I'm going to keep training twice per day. God willing, I will keep doing this for the rest of the year because it feels very good. It's a really good anchor. Don't see many people in the chat, though, taking me up on the idea of training twice per day. Apart from Jen. Jen Griffey is saying, keen for the September quest. With MCMNW saying, much love to you, Jordan. So grateful for your work. Thank you. Anya says, movement and lifting has healed me to a great extent, but how do you deal from the body image insecurities that arise? I don't have those. It's not my personal issue. If you do have those, then it's a separate thing. Like, I'm not... You'll notice, in all of my conversation there, I did mention that I've gained mass and shredded on my stomach, but I wasn't emphasizing how I look. I was emphasizing how I feel and how I'm moving. The looks are a byproduct. That's not the thing. I'm training because I want to move, because I'm a human who's meant to move. The body insecurities are because you are over-identifying at the mental level with what you see in the mirror. You are not... I'm so sorry for anyone who's going through body insecurities. I know what this was like. I remember getting body dysmorphic around age 17, 18 when I first started getting into lifting. But the deeper movement philosophy... Train without mirrors, train without filming yourself, train without seeing your reflection. Let the movement emerge from the inside out. I want to flow this way. Oh, I feel like my shoulder's a bit tight. Like, I'm just going to open up my shoulder. And then it starts with a bit of stretching and it's a bit mechanical. But then eventually you find oh, that's so cool. Like the lower lat engages. I'm now reaching. So rather than a reach, I'm doing a reach without using the hand. I'm reaching from my lat. It's like I'm pulling up. What does that mean? It's like, oh, I'm aspirational, I'm going somewhere. Like, every single movement itself is a symbolic story. Every single movement. The reason I love muscle-ups, for example, isn't because how they'll make me look. Like, the muscle-up, for those who don't know, imagine a pair of gymnastics rings. The muscle-up is where you pull yourself to here from beneath the rings, you get up above the rings, and then you push yourself out. One of my favourite movements of all time. For me, the muscle up is a symbolic interpretation of pulling yourself to a new level of awareness, breaking through the threshold, stabilising at the new level, and then pushing yourself to the wider overview perspective. And then can you go back down and then symbolically go between the levels of perspective, which for me symbolically means can I go back and forth from different stages of awareness. That seems insane to describe, but I really do muscle ups this way. Fun fact. If you go back on my Instagram stories and go back to January the 1st, this is fun to think about. It's fun actually to make this connection. I On my New Year's, I always like to spend the crossover into the New Year's doing the thing that I want the year to be about. And this is fascinating. Not this year, but the previous year, I remember going into New Year's and I was organising the curriculum for the self-integration school. Going into 2024, I had a kind of little party here going on, and I got the 104 books out and I put them all on the floor. So on January 1st at like 1 a.m. in the morning, I'm organising the 104 books for the curriculum because I was making the final closing gesture of this library project coming to a close and then getting the curriculum together. That's what I did for New Year. For the year before that, going into 2023, I was sat at my desk and I was rereading one of the books. I think it was A Pregnant Virgin by Marion Woodman, just happened to be the book that I was rereading as the clock went midnight. Call me a nerd, call me a dork, but I see that as a sacred moment where I can then imbue the year with energy. And I was second reading at my laptop, and that was a year where I went super deep on the second reads and really clarified my understanding of what I wanted to do with life, what I wanted to do with this work. This year, I wasn't in the library. I went to my local 24-hour gym, and at the stroke of midnight, I was doing muscle-ups on the rings. And for me, the muscle-ups on the rings were just such a fun thing to do, and it was breaking through to the next level of awareness. And if you watch my journey this year, from how I was back in January, how I was in April, and then how I am now, and seeing me on this day 46, I think I've broken through to a new level of awareness. And interestingly, the physical embodiment aspect of things, this is arguably the year where I become more embodied than ever, more in myself, more strength, grace, all these things all coming together. And that seemed to have started from the New Year's moment. Just a fun aside to reflect upon. These kinds of weird stories of me being me. I know it's weird. I know I'm aware as I'm saying this, like, you don't need to be at the, like, what a fucking weirdo. Like, for the last 3 New Years in a row, 2023, I decided to put all my favourite books on the floor. 2024, I decided to be at my laptop rereading a book. And then 2025, let's do muscle-ups in the gym alone. But, I'd rather that be the energy that I imbue the next 365 days with than going and partying and drinking. I have plenty of social occasions if I'd want to go to them. I have plenty of social interactions with people that I'm close to, or my students or clients. I try and focus on something that's more meaningful. The intention that I had, one single intention from New Year's, which I'm still working on, my New Year's resolution, I still consider this, it was to do what needs to be done for the highest good of myself and those I care about. And part of that was going daily and going online, because I needed to be a man that I found inspiring. And that means showing up online every single day. No more offline days, no more fully offline days. Show up as a teacher, show up as an exemplar, show up as some form of leader for the small level of influence that I have. No more hiding. It means also training and being more embodied. What does it make? For me, looking forwards in 5 years' time, I would be the kind of man that trains every day. So that's what I decided to do. These kinds of choices really matter, the intentionality in which you do things. In fact, there's one of those quotes, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. Students have reflected back to me that they like that one in particular, so that's one of my quotes, as it were. Nice roundabout perspective on things. I appreciate the questions coming in. Let's choose a few questions to go into the next chapter of the live stream. It's a good matchup. Zinc Oxide says, please do a video in the home gym showing a typical workout at some point. I have. Go over on my Instagram. If you go to my Instagram, there is a highlight called day question out of question. For the last 46 days, I've been posting every single day. You've got, I think, 100 stories in there. There's 100 stories you can just click through and you will see everything to do with my life. My Instagram is at Thornton Theory. I'm not just a man in a library. If you want to see how I train, how I lift, how I live my life, go over to my Instagram, check that highlight, and you'll be able to see everything. Find it interesting, perhaps. Mente Integral asked, hello Jordan, could you please talk about the dark night of the soul and going back on old patterns? It seems like I'm facing it for a second time. It's weird. Yes, I have. I've made an entire video on this topic and I will refer you over to there. If you type in Jordan Thornton Dark Night of the Soul, you are going to get my best possible thinking, as well as about 4 to 6 books in that video. It was only released a few months ago, and you will get my best possible response. I could give you a short answer right now, but I'm really doing you a disservice. Just open up a new tab. Go open up a new tab on your phone. Jordan Thornton Dark Night of the Soul. on YouTube search, you will find it. Good luck. You'll enjoy the books over there. Nova asked, do I think that YouTube helped me to become a higher version of myself? Absolutely, both as a consumer and creator on YouTube. Currently, we have about 60 people watching live and probably about 1,000 or so watching the replay who are consumers of YouTube. Specifically in this moment, you are consuming me on YouTube. What does it mean to consume content? Important question that you might not have asked yourself. To consume is an attempt to assimilate. To eat something is beginning the process of assimilation. To truly digest the information that you receive is to then become one with the information that you have consumed. If I hadn't have had access to YouTube in my kind of early teen years, thankfully I had access to the computer when I kind of got 10 years old, I've got access to a computer, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to learn about things like fitness, for example, in the first place. When I was 16 and got into fitness, I had no reference points in terms of family or friends of how to start lifting, but YouTube did exist back then. And I started searching for workout routines, and there were probably a dozen or so men and women that I followed who I was learning from, mainly men, because I was a young boy trying to learn about how to get muscles, and YouTube shaped me fundamentally. Arguably, I just got stuck in the pyramid scheme of YouTube, and here I am now being like the self-development pyramid scheme of here I am doing self-development, and now I'm doing you and self-development, and everyone develops, and blah, 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 blah. But. To go to the next stage where you go from just consuming YouTube, and if we're talking about YouTube being a synonym for self-development and self-improvement overall, to then being a creator or a propagator of self-healing information for others, is really quite an interesting step that is only best suited to some people rather than everyone. Most people are better off being active consumers of YouTube self-education and then just being a positive influence in their family and friend circle. Most people shouldn't make this a professional career because frankly most people don't have the stress level or the time organization, stress management kind of level to properly run a YouTube channel. It's fun for most people for the first few months, but then when it needs to become more of a systematic job where you are hitting an upload schedule, you're getting the videos out and you're making it something, that's when it becomes a different thing compared to just the ideas of YouTube. That's when it becomes more business-like. So if you are considering doing these things, or you already do these things, you probably know what I'm talking about here, and we spoke about it at length in the previous live stream. Go back on my channel, look at the live stream replay. I think I spoke about this topic for about 20 minutes straight of why you shouldn't do what I do, why you shouldn't copy my example of being a YouTuber on the internet, why it's exceptionally fucking difficult to make money and make a living in this. Go watch that live stream replay. But YouTube has definitely fundamentally changed me for the good, and at times, as I learned from my 52-day experiment earlier in the year where I didn't watch a single YouTube video for 52 days straight and I tried to actively break my YouTube addiction, it's self-reinforcing. After 30 days of not watching YouTube self-development and self-improvement, I started to feel a little bit lonely and a little bit unaffirmed because I now have friends who are YouTubers, so I couldn't even watch their videos. I couldn't watch my friends' videos. I couldn't connect with my friends' creativity and start a conversation. And also, I then ended up being in a bit of a weird silo where I'm the one creating YouTube videos, but I'm not consuming, and I became a bit unbalanced, like an author who writes too much and needs to read a few books himself. So there's a whole level of complexity there. But maybe that's beside the point. Let's take another question. I hear from Stan. An acquaintance sold all his books, saying he'll never read them again, and didn't want to look like he's showing off. A Christian friend once said the same, that displaying books can be pride, even sin. Interesting. Maybe. I read books because I enjoy learning. I communicate in the title of this live stream approximately how many books I've read because it serves the attention of the algorithm, but I don't pride myself necessarily on the quantity of books. In fact, actually, I suppose this is one of the things. I have a living library. I don't know whether this is, I don't know what I'm talking about here. I have a living library, which means that every single book in this room has an active purpose. There are about 470 to 500 books in this room. The rest have been banished to the garage because they're not very good books. A book only deserves to stay in this room if it is useful for me, a prospective client or student, or a prospective YouTube video. If I can't see a function for a book, it does not exist in this room. Beyond a few months of maybe it slid under the radar or something. Every book here serves a purpose. You could pick up any book in this room. I have read it. I've read every single book in this room. About 200 of them I've read twice, and it's a conversation for me. It's a portal to another level of conversation. It in itself, it's a relationship to the author, and maybe that's a point of pride. But for me, I very much see the authors as friends in some kind of way. Kind of sad to say that, but a community of like-minded souls across the last 120 years or so of psychology. Maybe I don't get along with Freud so well, and Alfred Adler's more of my homie, but you know, someone like Carl Jung, someone like Abraham Maslow, I really get behind these people, and I like having them here. But it could be a point of pride. Of course, anything taken to excess can be a point of excessive character pride or something like this. Unfortunately, if you are, this is one of the issues as well of being a YouTuber. I repeat frequently how many books I've read and the way I read all of these books because people are finding me for the first time. So to establish authority and expertise in a shorthand way that summarizes about 6 years worth of work is something that I have to do. You can imagine that when I'm teaching inside the Shadow Work Library or when I'm having a conversation with one of my clients, I'm not constantly saying, well, because I read all of these books, I actually know what's the right answer. I just avoid all of that. I might be like, you know what, I think I have the right book for you, and I just give the book, or like, have you considered this idea? I remember that from over there. Like the potential arrogance or inflation of like how much you know is one of those strange things that you have to constantly mitigate against when you are a public figure, because you have to tell people what you are as a self-introduction, but then you do end up getting certain projections wrapped around like how I relate to who I am. But I think I mostly avoid those kinds of things, and keeping a living library is also something that just feels very high integrity to me. I'd love for someone to walk in this library and pick up like any book. They're like, oh, what's this book about? Have a great chat. That's what I like them for. Next few questions on the screen. Mr. Dan said, aside from John Bradshaw's book, what do you think are the most essential books for healing from toxic shame? The most essential book is Swamplands of the Soul by James Hollis. I recommend you go for that one. Swamplands of the Soul by James Hollis. That is a book that you should read for toxic shame and separating out healthy guilt from unhealthy guilt. Jasmine says, hi, I want you to suggest a book on how to study even though I don't want to. Jasmine, you probably, if you're not a young person who's forced to do something for school, you're probably studying the wrong thing. I'll just be real with you. You're either young and you have to do something, or if you're an adult and you just don't want to do something, you probably just don't want to do it. Maybe worth reconsidering why you're doing it in the first place. Or you can try and, you know, be a square peg in a round circular triangular hole or something like this. Try and find a good question then. I see my energy flag just a little bit. I'm going to take a bit of matcha, change my vibe up a little bit. We're about an hour into the stream. I'm going to stretch out. Let's get a good question. There's lots of small questions in there. I want to see if there's one that I want to bite into. Let's see. It's also my eyes. It's interesting because I did the Shadow Work Library seminar. I've been staring at the lights, so I actually need to just refresh my eyes. Active role modeling of what it's like to be a public personality. Cool, we are matched up. Let's see what we've got. Good question, let's go in for it. Can self-hatred affect your ability to love others? What do you think the answer is? Can self-hatred affect your ability to love others? I would argue that you cannot love others more than you love yourself. That is not always true. That is a cliche. But the actual deep compassion for someone else must be rested upon the foundation of compassion for yourself. If your body is a toxic hellhole of self-hatred and self-criticism, and you're trying to give a pure gift of love to someone else, imagine that you are full of fumes and sludge, you're covered in a black bile, and you have the most perfect, most beautiful set of swan matches. And these swan matches represent beauty and love and compassion, but I'm covered in gunk, and guess what? I try and hand these over to you. You don't receive a nice pristine pack of swan matches. You get gunky swan matches. My self-hatred has polluted the love that I'm trying to give you, and although you might say, no, I'm just trying to give you love, I'm just trying to give you love, look at this pristine gift, anyone with eyes to see and a nose to smell can see that you've just given something that's wrapped in your own putridness. And that is strong language, but I'm being visceral and I'm being real. I'm trying to evoke the emotions. You don't need to be in a fucking self-hating mentality. It's a false concept. It's a false concept. Unless you have done things that are truly worthy of being hateful for, you've hurt someone in a significant way, you can healthily judge yourself for that. You are a bad person in that instance. You have hurt someone, you've sent someone to the hospital. Not a good choice. Not a good choice at all. But the vast majority of people watching this live stream are not bad people. And the bad things that we've done are merely human mistakes. If you've got a tremendously toxic inner voice, tremendously painful self-narrative, that is naturally going to affect how you love others and your ability to go deep into those relationships, because you are also more likely to be more vulnerable towards certain conflict dynamics and things like this. If you want to be a better partner, if you want to be a better parent, if you want to be a better friend, your inner work will support your ability to be a more loving person and not get all of your gunk everywhere. And people will be able to receive you for the light that you are, rather than you feeding yourself with light as a result of trying to meet it codependently with others. Sapora, one of my shadow work students, still here in the chat. Good to see you here, Sapora. Hopefully speaking to you in a few hours. I love that, as I'm here looking at my swan, preening herself and eating grass. Fantastic. Sapora is one of those wonderfully eccentric shadow work library students who does have her own swan. In fact, Sapora, I'm sure you're happy for me to share this publicly. If not, you can please reprimand me afterwards, but there was one very memorable shadow work library seminar where one of her geese came up to the window, and we had a beautiful moment where she turned around the camera and there was a goose outside the window, and imagine all of us on the seminar and we're all laughing heartily. I think someone took a confidential screenshot that's posted inside the shadow work library of that fun moment of a goose suddenly appearing for the deep shadow work introspection. But Spora also has a swan. Maybe we get to see a swan sometime in a seminar, Spora. You let me know. And yeah, likewise, let me know if you'd never want me to mention your goose again in a public forum. I don't know if the goose would cause shame or secrecy, but I felt like one of those moments that people would enjoy hearing about. The mental imagery is fantastic. Fantastic. Really good. Highlight of the Shadowwork Library community this year. Great call. Next question coming up. Question. I'm currently wondering if romantic relationships are mainly about learning, at least in my experience. Mostly about father and mother issues. What is your opinion on that? Romantic relationships will naturally bring up the wounding that you have towards your opposite gender parent if you are a straight individual. The majority of people, statistically speaking, watching this live stream will be straight, just because that's how population demographics work, so I'm going to go with that example. If you're a woman who's dating a certain type of man who either reminds you of your father or reminds you of everything your father wasn't, by nature you are then implied into father work. You are then doing father wound healing. You are comparing, you are contrasting, you're making similarities. You are learning about what you experienced and what you're experiencing now, and you're making comparisons. There are a whole variety of issues that can come with that. A whole variety of situations. Generally speaking, yeah, relationships are about learning. Absolutely. I mean, it's also about far more than just learning. It is about building something with someone. It's about being in an active, engaged, like living thing. The exchange of love between two people is more than just learning. Of course, all of life is a learning experience, but also these values of love and truth and beauty and the artfulness of forming connections is also what relationships are all about. Good luck in your learnings nonetheless. Looking now for the questions. Rag is re-asking a question from earlier, so let's prioritize this one. Re-asking, asking as it got triggered by the swan. How to make sense of synchronicity in reality and dreams. Is there something specific our consciousness is doing to us with that? So the language of dreams is more or less a symbolic interpretation of a core energetic pattern which needs to be clothed. I will break that down for you. Any particular symbol in a dream is an emotion-laden idea which is being wrapped in a symbol. This is the emotion idea. This is like a hyphen. Emotion, idea, emotion, memory, whatever it might be. There's various technicalities you can go into, but you've got an actual thing. The actual thing in the dream is then clothed or wrapped, like wearing a shirt, in the symbol of the dream, which is why when you wake up you go, wow, what was that dream all about? I saw a butterfly and a fox running through the fields. You then search symbolism of the butterfly, symbolism of the fox. That's you searching for this. And this has an impression of the thing it was covering. So the symbolism, something which is distinct from the literal thing itself. All dream work and active imagination is basically a process of like, what's the symbol that I've got, what's the thing beneath it, and then guess what? Ta-da! Oh, this is the actual thing, not the symbol. Not the symbol. The symbol wraps over the idea or the essence or the emotion or something inside. You take the symbol off, you interpret the symbol, you do the dream work. It's mostly over here in the woos and the wahs and the story and the narrative. And look what's inside. Whoa, the actual thing itself. Turns out it was all about my father all along. It wasn't about the fox and the butterfly. You get the idea. That's it. That's the concept. Hopefully that's a memorable analogy for everyone to kind of work with. It's a default principle in all dream work and all active imagination. In some cases, very rare cases, you are having genuinely transpersonal visionary experiences of an other naturally dimension, and the symbol is the thing. Like you take off the symbol and guess what's inside? Another symbol. Like almost doing symbolism aikido right here. Bit of dream work Wing Chun. You let me know. A few more questions before wrapping up the live stream. That was fun. You know what's funny? This is interesting. You can't lie about who you are. You'll notice in the last 10 minutes, my energy was going lower because I've been sat down doing the shadow work library. And I love that, but I've been sat down, I've been talking. But then as soon as I get my body more engaged, and I'm moving, and I'm doing something that's more kind of physically creative, my happiness comes through. Because I woke up later this morning, didn't get to do a full workout in the way that I would have wanted to have done. I have my second workout on the way, I have my ruck on the way, but also today is my busy Sunday, and at midnight, in an hour and 40 minutes, I will have my next seminar, so I might be able to squeeze in a workout. Maybe even it's a good sign that I should bring my second workout forwards and do that now before I go into the seminar. In fact, that's probably a good idea, because I'm following the joy. I'm following the intuitive feeling of, wait, I just noticed myself there, being happier and more fulfilled and getting energy back. I felt more fullness in my heart. I felt the tension in my head go away just a little bit because I've been working today. And just a bit of playfulness. So what is it about this? What's going on there? Why was that playful? Okay, there's a fluidity in the back. I'm not holding myself. I'm also letting, my hands are going into different postures. What can I do that resembles this in physicality? Probably something like the mace swings, but also realistically, it's more flowy. So what is it that's like this? Probably literally flowing, but probably floor movement. So going on the mats, doing some animal flow on the floor, probably moving my shoulders around in wide open poses, and then doing things with my hand. What can I do with my hands that would be like opening and closing? Not much in terms of traditional lifting, but there might be something like doing forearm rolls, because I want to do something with my hands. You know, the forearm rollers, you do this, and you kind of roll it up like this. Yeah, that feels good. That definitely feels good. That's like a nice fluid movement. I'm going to do that. So I've now just decided intuitively, when I go do my next workout, I'm going to start the workout with some floor work, which is doing monkey crawls, bear crawls, a variety of flow movements, core-based exercises, and then I'll do a bit of arms after that, because it's my second workout of the day, and I'll do some forearm work, and maybe I'll just do some classic biceps and triceps just to bring a bit more consciousness into my periphery rather than in my center. Just a moment of trying to set an example. Lolly Lula says, your modelling is helpful. Thank you. I'm learning about what brings me joy versus what drains my energy. That's what I try to do. It seems crazy in some ways to self-assess yourself, but I'm aware that I'm on a live stream, so I'm trying to set the example of how to follow the messages that the body is giving. Because your body's always speaking to you. Sometimes in whispers, sometimes in screams. In that case, it was a whisper with the symbolism Wing Chun, and like to follow the whispers. Let's take 2 more questions for this live stream. I appreciate that many people ask many questions I haven't gotten to. I do apologise. You can probably see as you've been monitoring the chat, I get 5 times more questions than I can actually answer, so I do try and pick ones that I think I'd be able to speak to powerfully and with conviction, and that would be useful for many people. Got Sergeant Yoshi, good to see you here again, my friend. Memorable name. He said, thank you for inspiring me through your genuine vulnerability. People who hear last week in the live stream, Sergeant Yoshi, the militaristic dinosaur, you can go check out the replay for the story there. That was quite a fun interaction. Hope you're well. Just trying to check the chat for any questions. If I missed your question, put the question back in the chat. I will see if it comes through. I'm not seeing any that I want to necessarily go into right now. Take a drink. Let's see what comes up next. And lay back and let it happen. Let's see what people go for. And I'll go for my workout. People will tune out now because they think it's over, but actually it's not. If you stay, you will be rewarded. What I'm doing now is a bit of active rest. I'm leaning back into receptivity, quite literally leaning back into receptivity, then allowing myself an opportunity to then lean back in, and in the process of leaning back in, I will re-engage myself. Quite literally, like, I'm making a choice to lean back in, make the choice to lean back, make the choice to lean back in, more passion's likely to come. Amanda Wilson. Why do I become less connected / not wanting to be intimate or vulnerable / create distance with a partner or friend as time goes on and they want to get to know me? Amanda, that massively depends on what we're talking about here. Are you talking about a male friend who wants to get to know you and actually are not a friend and they want to sleep with you? Are you talking about a friend who wants to maneuver a certain situation where they're going to get some kind of financial gain? Are you talking about someone who... what are we talking about here? If it's a general pattern of not wanting to be connected, it could be the case actually you just have privacy boundaries. You're just the kind of person who wants to spend more time in private, wants to spend more time alone. This could be a general character trait. There's not necessarily anything wrong with you. If you're correctly identifying that this person has superior intentions behind their like initially superficial approach towards friendship, then you're probably just sensitively attuned to the fact that they're not necessarily who they say they are. I'd listen to those voices. Don't discard them too soon. It could just be the case though that you like privacy. You don't want to share everything intimately with everyone. For example, you might notice that on YouTube, I don't talk about a variety of things in my personal life. I don't talk about romantic relationships. I try to minimize certain aspects of my personal history that would maybe have implications towards friends or family members. I keep certain things private because it's my public persona, and this is what I do for work. So if I had all of my life as an entirely open book, where do I get space for myself? Where do I get my own privacy? Where do I get my own life as Jordan Thornton, not Jordan Thornton in a work? That's me in a public sense, but you in terms of relationships and friendships, you also get to make the same choice for yourself. Which boundaries do you want to uphold? How much for you, how much for the world? Make your choices. That should help. Got a number of questions coming through. Let's see if we can do some rapid fire questions right at the end. How to heal a father narcissistic wound as a man. If you're a man with a narcissistic father, you need to become the kind of father that you wished you had. You need to re-challenge your ideas of what masculinity is and find a vision of inspiring, uplifting, healthy masculinity which you can embody and express as the man that you are and the man that you get to be for your family and friends. Fundamentally, you need to go through the death and rebirth process and bury your father's values and become your own man of integrity. That would be my perspective on that one. From my perspective, what are the characteristics of the divine feminine and masculine? That's a very long question. I've definitely made several videos on this. I would look for my videos on feminine and masculine. It's classical traits. I'm sure you already know. I'm sure you already know this. You've asked this question, but you probably already have a good idea. We have got Daniel in the chat. No question today. Just want to say that I love these live streams and hearing you speak to the importance of movement, always a good reminder. Daniel, you're a great man, and I appreciate you. We've also got Fried Rice in here, saying that sexism sucks. The duality of the comment section. Yeah, sexism does suck, Fried Rice. I didn't know Fried Rice could be so politically opinionated, but, you know, we are in 2025, and even it starts with the robots and then our food gains sentience. That's the way that it is these days. Sappora's in the chat saying, I really enjoyed this interaction today. I feel happy. I had also introduced someone to you and your work today. Thank you, Sappora, for spreading the message. And I was happy to know they joined this chat. I deeply appreciate this work. Cool. That's cool. So Sappora, you invited someone to my work. You shared my profile or something with them, and they showed up for the live stream, and you saw them commenting in the chat. That's pretty cool. Like, imagine you showed one of your friends, like one of the YouTubers you like, and then they show up in the live stream, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, so-and-so. It's quite cool. And then you send them a message like, I see you in the chat. It's fun. Fun to imagine. I'm glad they get to be entertaining for people. Let's go for one more question. Let's see if there's one more in there. We're going to go for this, and we have got George's question. Can someone who is less intelligent and motivated than yourself read all the books and become auto-therapeutic or self-therapeutic to the same degree that you have? No, they cannot. No, they can't. They can't. I'm not going to bullshit you. This is a great question. This is really fucking good. And this is said with all sense of neutrality that I possibly can. Can someone who is less intelligent and motivated, two factors there, so base level intelligence and base level motivation, read all of the books, 700 books, and become auto-therapeutic or self-therapeutic to the same degree that I have? No, they can't. No, they can't. I set a ridiculous example that is not to be followed. Do not do what I do. I have done it this way because I'm of a certain intellectual bent. I'm a certain type of extreme character, and I also have a real obsessive nature in terms of being motivated and immersed in things, and this is also my job. To be self-therapeutic doesn't require 700 books. To engage with incredible psychological material doesn't require high-level intellectual sparring abilities. What I've tried to do, and this is my fucking, this is it. Please pay attention, this is it. It has taken me nearly 6 years of my life. I've basically sacrificed the last decade, more or less in terms of my personal self-healing and this professionalization of it, to try and find the best psychological books from the last 120 years that have the highest portion of impact and value and just overall deep holistic understanding, which is lost in the internet age, to create a mental library of, yep, that one, not this one, not this one, yep, that one, to then make my 104 book curriculum for the self-integration school, where you don't need to read all of the books. You don't need to be hyper motivated because I'm going to help motivate you. My community is going to help motivate you. You don't need to be a genius level intellect to deal with all these complex philosophical topics, because the ideas are broken down and presented in a way that creates a natural supportive structure, like going to a university and doing a master's degree. You do need to have a base level of intelligence to be interested in these kinds of things. Every single person who's here today watching this live stream, you're probably more intelligent than the average person, because intelligence tends to leave hints. Someone who's classically intelligent typically likes reading books that have smart ideas in them. Everyone here, round of applause. We're all smarter than average to some degree. People who don't have that intellectual hunger don't gravitate towards channels like this one. So that's fine. Everyone who's here, everyone who's going to hear me, you're more intelligent than average. I'm safe to say that. In 95 out of 100 cases, you are a slightly higher IQ if we were to do IQ testing. I don't know what my IQ is. I've done an IQ test. I haven't done an IQ test since I was 14 and did some internet test. I don't know what it is. I don't care. I'm smart. I know I'm smart. I'm some degree of gifted. I'm happy to say that. It's clear that I've got something that's working in my favor. But my example is ridiculous. You really do not need to do what I do. To be self-therapeutic and to properly understand the trauma of your past will realistically take people about 3 to 5 years of consistent processing and inner work. What I've found practically is something like reading for half an hour to an hour per day for several months in a row in a focused manner, followed by a period where you don't read so much and you go and live life, and then there's another season of reading for about half an hour a day, and then another season of going down like this. That natural ebb and flow of focusing on where it went wrong and being compassionate to yourself doesn't require the intelligence, but it does require the motivation. Reading the books is one thing, but to be motivated to heal yourself means that you are motivated to love yourself. You are motivated to give yourself care and compassion and a fighting chance at a better life. And that doesn't require intelligence, that just requires a strong heart. Some people who are classically not so intelligent can be very loving individuals. It's not an elitist thing, but the specific question about how intelligent, how motivated, all of the books, perfectly self-healing, don't aim for those standards. Just go for what makes sense for you based on the particular history that you've had, and know that the loving mind and the loving heart and the loving spirit all need to come together to make a success of this inner work. 3 to 5 years of focused work. Probably several dozen books. A shadow work library of 36 books. Many people have had dramatic transformations in 6 or 7 months of reading a couple dozen books. You can do so much in such a short period of time. And if you remember at the very start of the live stream, if you were here in the live stream, I don't advise going for 100% healing. To get 90% healed or 95% healed and then have your equivalent of the calisthenics dip burns on your arm that never go away. That's okay. That is enough. That is good enough, and you will be an exemplar to those around you. And that in itself is self-therapeutic and auto-therapeutic. If you want a practical book that I recommend you read, here's one. One of the top books from the Self-Integration School curriculum for next year. Inner Conflict by Karen Horney. This book is about self-analysis. Karen Horney pioneered the idea of self-analysis in the 1930s and 1940s, one of Freud's original disciples. She led the movement on self-actualization. Before Abraham Maslow, Karen Horney was working over in New York, exodus from mainland Germany and Austria before the Second World War. There's then like New York and Chicago kind of area, and then later on the Californian scene, the Los Angeles kind of scene, like the Esalen Institute. This was what was going on 30 years before all of that. Self-analysis is possible. You are your own healer. Of course you are. Motivation is required to some degree. Intelligence is required to some degree. And you know what? Final closing statement. If you're less intelligent, you can balance yourself out with high motivation. If you have low motivation but very high intelligence, you're fucked. Motivation's more important. It's not intelligence. The motivation is the thing. Several questioners today have said, like, I'm stopping myself doing the thing. Motivation is a simple word, but the will, the spirit, the conviction, the intention, the force of love, that is what matters in this journey. If you haven't got it just yet, feed your fire. Find a way to inspire that inside of yourself. For me personally, it's meant 46 days of showing up every single day. It's meant an entire month of working out twice per day. Feed yourself. I'm going to go feed myself with a workout. I'll see you next Sunday.